You know, sometimes the most bone-chilling stories aren't in some scary movie. They're buried in, of all places, a game design document. Today, we're cracking open the blueprint for a game called Logistica, and it lays out this world where bureaucracy isn't just mind-numbing, it's a weapon. So let's get into it.
Right off the bat, the document just throws you into the deep end. Before you even know what you're supposed to be doing, the game is already sizing you up, getting ready to slap an identity on you. An identity like this one, Void-Walker. I mean, what on earth is a Void-Walker doing at a desk job? This is our very first clue that something is way off here. But then, just as you're wondering about that, the system shows you this, GAROP, the Global Audio Reconstruction and Archival Project. It sounds so official, doesn't it? So corporate. Maybe a little dull. You're just recovering old weather data. It's the perfect, boring-sounding cover story, you know? It's designed to make you think that Void-Walker thing was just some weird flavor text. Spoilers, it's not. So, on paper, your new job is pretty straightforward. You're a digital recovery technician. It's just you, alone, in a room full of old-school analog machines processing data tapes. But the really important part of this whole orientation is what happens when you sign on the dotted line. And this is just wow. This is where the game totally flips a basic choice on its head. You don't get to make a character. Nope. As you're physically signing your employment contract, the game analyzes what it calls a noise score and assigns you an identity. It's not a choice, it's an interpolation. The system is literally reading you, classifying you before you've even clocked in for your first shift. And just look at the kind of identities it can give you. Void-Walker, Mute Archivist, Record Slave, Decay Recipient. I mean, come on. None of these sound anything like Digital Recovery Technician. They sound like job titles in some dystopian nightmare. It's such a brilliant way to show the gap between what they tell you you're doing and what's really going on. Why would a simple data archivist be called an echo vessel? Okay, so you've got your deeply unsettling identity, and now it's time to get to work. The core of the game is this really structured, almost meditative routine. It's called the daily documentation cycle, and it's all designed to just lull you into a false sense of normalcy.
The whole cycle is broken down into these 4 clean steps. First up is receipt. A pneumatic tube shoots out new tapes for you. Then, you move to analysis, using all this cool forensic hardware to pick apart the sounds. Third is documentation, where you're physically sticking your findings onto a paper report. And last, submission. You just slide that report into an outbox. See? It's all meant to feel so tangible, so routine, so bureaucratic.
But even this everyday loop has this really sinister twist. If you start falling behind on your quota, a teletype machine starts chugging out these notices of inefficiency. And here's the kicker, they're real physical objects. They don't just disappear, they pile up on your desk, literally getting in your way. It's such a perfect, awful metaphor for feeling overwhelmed by corporate pressure. So for a while, you might just do the job, right? You get into the rhythm, but after a while, the sounds on those tapes, they don't really sound like wind and static. And that brings us to the game's huge, terrifying question. What are you really listening to?
And this is the moment the bottom just falls out of everything. It turns out GAROP has created an entire corporate dictionary just to hide the truth. That high-velocity wind shear you've been carefully logging? Yeah, those are screams. The generator thrum you've been isolating? That's the heartbeat of some kind of entity. And a harmonic crosstalk? That's emotional residue. You're not a weather archivist. You're a paranormal forensic analyst, and you had no idea.
And how do you figure all this out? Well, you find this. It's called the Hidden Manual. It's this secret handwritten guide that gives you the real classifications, and it totally contradicts your official training. It's the physical proof that this is all a conspiracy. It's that huge aha moment.
So once you know the truth, the whole game shifts. A hidden system finally clicks on, the Dread Meter. And it is tracking everything. Every mistake you make, every choice, even your fear. It's not just a meter for your sanity, it's measuring the stability of your entire reality. So how does your dread go up? Well, the triggers are just so cleverly tied to the gameplay. There's tactile abuse. If you get frustrated and just throw a tape across the room, the system knows. There's operational error, just messing up your analysis. Narrative conflict is when you just ignore those angry messages from management. And then, my absolute favorite, spatial panic. That's when you use a tool to figure out where a signal is coming from, and the result says 0 meters. It's in the room with you right now.
And as that dread meter climbs, your workspace starts to break down. The design doc calls them dread manifestations. Knobs on your machines will start turning by themselves, and the tapes will start to screech and literally leap out of the players as if they're alive. The world itself is turning against you.
So what happens if you push the system too far? If you let your dread level creep up past 90%?
You get this: total system failure, a catastrophic breach. The lie has completely shattered, and whatever you were analyzing, whatever you were keeping contained, well, it's breaking through.
And all of this leads to the game's core moral dilemma. Now that you know these tapes contain something alive, or at least conscious, what are you supposed to do with them? The game gives you two very, very different paths.
Your choice boils down to this: the incinerator or the nesting zone. On the one hand, you can just follow your corporate orders. Destroy the tapes in the incinerator. That's the path of compliance, the supposedly safe route. Or you can defy those orders. You can build a sanctuary, a nesting zone, to protect the entities inside the tapes. But being defiant comes with a massive risk, attracting something the document only refers to as a management audit. And no, it doesn't explain what that means, which is frankly terrifying.
And that's really the genius of this whole design. Even in this incredibly detailed blueprint, the creators have intentionally left some horrifying questions unanswered. They make sure the mystery and the dread extend even beyond the game itself. For example, it asks, what is the physical sequence of a management audit? But it gives no answer. Is it some guy in a suit who just walks into your office? Is it some machine that crawls out of the walls? Or is it something else? The fact that you just don't know is a huge part of the horror. The blueprint also hints at even deeper secrets, like something called the shadow hour. Apparently, this is a time after your shift officially ends when new, secret machines might power on. It makes you wonder, right? What else can you find in the dark when you think no one's watching you?
So what this blueprint really shows us is a world where the real monster isn't a creature, it's paperwork. It's a system where every single mundane click and drag is being judged by this hidden meter of dread. The bureaucracy isn't just there to be boring, it's a weapon, and it's designed to grind you into dust. And it leaves you with this really, really unsettling thought. In a system that's built on a monstrous lie, what does it make you if you choose to be a good employee?